Okay, it's not a disadvantage to have a single stack magazine like some people think. On John Correa's channel, he did a study of his own videos and found out that more often than not, a person only used the magazine they had in the weapon, and very rarely would they switch out another magazine. And the old saying is, you run out of time before you run out of ammo, because most defense situations are very close, within 7 to 10 yards, or even way under 10 yards, probably 7 or 5 yards. And they don't last very long, and people scatter. That's usually how it goes. And the thing we have to understand, too, is we have to separate ourselves from law enforcement, because it's much different in law enforcement than it is with the private citizen when it comes to research. So the private citizen is not chasing, is not putting on cuffs, isn't doing drug busts, isn't doing, traffic stops and other things like that. What they're doing is they're just trying to get home, and they're going to defend themselves, they're going to take cover, and they're going to extract themselves from that situation. Whereas law enforcement, you have a duty to go put cuffs on that person, which is going to take a lot more resources, a lot more ammo, and rifles and all other kinds of things. So let's get into it. Is it a disadvantage to have a single stack magazine? No, because of the fact that it's what you do with the ammo is what counts. And the other thing is, just because you have a gun that's got 17 rounds in it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have more firepower, because of the fact that it's not what you have on board on the gun that counts. It's what you carry on your person. So, for instance, if you carry this Buckmark 22 and you got 10 rounds and you got two 10-round magazines you carry with you, you've got 30 rounds right there. So that's what we have to understand is capacity isn't just what's on board, it's what you carry with you. So you have to understand that. There is more capacity, and that includes revolvers. You're always going to have probably another speed loader or something on you anyway. So let's look at the size comparison here. So we've got two 12-round 9mm magazines from this Taurus here. And we're going to safety check these two pretty soon here. So 12 and 12 is 24. You've got two Buckmark magazines, 20 rounds. Because the 22 bullet is much smaller than a 9mm, notice that you're saving a lot of room, so it's equivalent to two of these. You're saving a lot. Look at how much room you're saving. You could probably fit one more magazine of 22 right there, and you'd have 30 rounds. So it takes up less space because it's a smaller caliber. Okay, so that's one advantage, is you can carry more small caliber magazines than you could bigger caliber double stack magazines. So that's one advantage. So let's clear these out real quick. You can see nothing in the chamber, nothing in the mag well. So we're going to drop that mag right here. There we go. Make sure there's nothing in that mag well. And then the burst of thunder, nothing in the chamber, nothing in the mag well. And then the 9mm Taurus G2C. All right, so we're all cleared out. Now, here's what I want to say. Now that we know that space has nothing to do with it, having single stack magazines, everybody's thinking, oh, you'd have to have all these magazines on you, so then it would take up a lot of space. No, that isn't true at all. Because if you look at the 380 Bursts of Thunder here, you'll notice that these two are single stack magazines, but they're thinner because simply they're a single stack magazine. So the thing is that if you put them together, you've got 14 rounds here, and you've got 12 right here. 12 rounds, 14 rounds. Check that out. See? So it's not a disadvantage carrying extra magazines with you as long as they're small and they don't take up as much space. Double stacks take up a lot of space. You know, this is one 12-round magazine, but look at it. You have two of these. You got 24 versus, I know that you only got 14, but still, saying that a single stack that you can't carry ammo on you because it takes up too much space is kind of a ridiculous thing. Because people always thought if you need more magazines, then it's going to take up more space. No, because it's single stack, but not just that. If you have a single stack .22 caliber, like this Browning Buckmark camper here, look at how thin these are. I mean, you could fit like, you could have like 3 of these magazines. Look at that. Look at how thin that is. You can carry a lot of these with you. So let's talk about something else. Let's say that you're carrying and you have Burst of Thunder. Let's say you got a 7-round magazine, extra 7-round magazine. Taurus G2C, you got 12, extra 12. Browning Buckmark, you got 10, 2 extra 10s. Okay, so let's say that you want to have more ammo than what you got here, but you want something a little different. Well, here we got a thing called a pellet pouch. And a pellet pouch is just a $5 item that you use for storing pellets. But this could be a nice dump pouch. It fits on your hip, and the weight of this with the extra bullets in here would actually balance out the weight of some of these firearms here. So I'm going to show you how many I can fit in there with this list that I have here. And this includes revolvers. So let's say that I'm in a bad situation and I've used both magazines. I have no ammo left, but I have my ammo pouch on me. For pellets, not that you would gunfight with a pellet gun, 500, 22, 100, and notice 22 Magnum, 75, because it's a longer case. But these are all the calibers and how many I can fit in that extra pouch. And that will be carried on you in worst case scenarios so that you can feed these magazines, which comes to another point I want to make. When it comes time to feeding these magazines, which one you think is easier to feed? Because you're not going to have a Lula loader on you when you're in a gunfight. Having a Lula loader on you, if you have that dump pouch that I was talking about with your 9mm double stack, and you try to load 9mm, look at how hard it is to get in there. I mean, you really have to do it the right way to get it in. And to stack a few of them, you really have to be good at it. Whereas, if you take something like a Burst of Thunder, you're out of ammo, you grab a few from your dump pouch, put them in, look at that, that's in right now. So you could load it yourself, or you can have somebody else that's next to you load this magazine, and you can grab some bullets out of here and give it to them. This is just worst case scenario now. This is something that probably ain't going to happen. But you see what I mean? So it's easier to load the single stack magazines than it is the double in an emergency. And a dump pouch, the concept behind that is, I don't know if you guys watched that program, or I forget what it's called, that police program, Andy Griffith show. You'll notice that they have dump pouches, which are different than this. This opens from the top. Theirs has like a little something down here where they reach the bullets from the bottom to feed their revolvers. So this is kind of like the same concept of that older police type dump pouch, but only it's opening from the top. So you're carrying around this, and notice the firepower that you have with the 22. You got 100 rounds, okay? That's 100 rounds, but that's not counting 30 rounds here. So you got a lot of firepower at the 22. So what it does is it makes up for its lack of energy. That's 100 foot-pounds of energy. And same thing with the 3D ACP. You're going to get about 200 foot-pounds of energy out of that. And you got the dump pouch, and let's see what we got for 380. You got 35 rounds, and you got 25 of 9mm. So when it comes to just raw firepower, you'll notice that the 22, you get a lot of ammo. And something like this, a 9mm with your standard 9mm loads in here, you're looking at probably about 285, 300 foot-pounds, 200 foot-pounds here, 100 foot-pounds here. But the thing is that it's shot placement. It's not necessarily the energy. It's not necessarily the expansion. It's not necessarily the penetration. It's where you put the bullet. So for instance, if you got a sternum and somebody's blocking like this with their forearm, I understand that the FBI has requirements about certain depths, but you simply have more rounds in the magazine so that you can wait till that arm gets out of the way, or you can just step back and just wait till you get your shot into the sternum with these lower performing cartridges, as far as ballistics gel. But the thing is that we don't want to always go by ballistics gel. We want to go by real world reports about people getting shot in the heart and the head. And 22, the same thing happens when people get hit with the 22 as they do with these other calibers. It just might take a little longer for the blood pressure to drop in the heart. But when you're talking headshots, the IDF, Israeli forces, have used 22s in dangerous hostage situations, and it's always shot placement, shot placement, shot placement. Even over in Europe, when they have 32s and other calibers, you'll notice that if you talk to them about what their philosophy is about stopping a suspect, they always say shot placement, shot placement, shot placement. So they train for that. You're not shooting a body, okay? You're not shooting a body and a torso. You're shooting a heart and a head. You're looking at that person like as if they're a heart or as if they're a brain. You're not looking at them as a torso, and that's the problem that a lot of us need to understand. Is a lot of people see it just as a torso, but you have to see it as if you were taking an x-ray of them vitals so that you know where to shoot. So that if somebody's blocking with their arm here in front of their sternum, and the 22 might have trouble getting 9-10 inches of penetration, probably, who knows, going through the arm, that you can go for the head. So there's always an option to get you to stop the threat. Whereas a bigger caliber like a 45 or something, if you can't control it, what's the use if you can't make good shot placements in a hurry to them vitals? So Tim Garman's is a good example. You can look him up on YouTube about him running dozens of 45 ACP, 230 grain spear gold dot into a perfectly sober suspect that wouldn't stop. But the last two shots, he hit him in the heart and the head, and that's what stopped the fight. So you guys have to understand that it's shot placement, okay? Stop getting into all this ballistic gel stuff. And, it's okay to use ballistics gel when you want to find out comparing two rounds from one another. But you don't want to get too hung up on ballistics gel, because even if you didn't have enough penetration in ballistics gel, I've never known a person to be like a slab of ballistics gel and get shot and not do anything about it. So ballistics gel doesn't have pain. Ballistics gel doesn't run to the hospital when it's been shot. Ballistics gel doesn't have fear when it gets shot. If you get shot with a bullet, you don't care how much penetration it has, because you don't have a tape measure on you, or maybe you do and you want to measure it. But that's kind of stupid. You don't know how far the bullet is inside you. All you know is that you're in trouble because you had just been shot and you need medical attention. That's why this ballistic gel crap that they're talking about, and if you look at private defense situations, a lot of times just a guy getting hit with a bullet, almost all the time, pretty much, a guy gets hit with a bullet that doesn't perform well in gel test, or he gets shot in the wrong spot. Almost all the time, that person is going to stop the attack, or is going to leave. And the thing is that you can leave too, so you have to understand that. You can leave, get to cover, shoot to cover, and extract yourself from that situation. Don't just stand there like a dummy wondering why your shot didn't work. Get to cover. Shoot on the move. Extract yourself from that situation. Now, I'm not talking about law enforcement here. I'm talking about the private citizen. Law enforcement, you're going to have to go put them cuffs on. So that's different. All right, so let's get back into the pouch thing here. So let's say you don't have any speed strips or speed loaders for your revolver. Let me show you a revolver here. And we're going to clear all these weapons really quick too. So here we have a Ruger LCRX, and we're going to clear it just by taking this plastic piece out. Or if it doesn't come out, it doesn't matter. Let's see here. Well, anyway, it's in there now, so I got it behind the thing here. So you got this here, this piece of plastic in here. This is for your dry fire. So you got you got the Ruger LCRX here, okay? Now, what we have to do is we have to load up some 22 Magnum in here, and if you look at the list, we can fit 75, okay? So if we can fit 75 22 Magnum, if we can fit 75 22 Magnum in a revolver, or have on hand, then what that means is we have a lot of firepower, even though it's a revolver. Now, you do have to load the rounds. I understand that. You are going to have to load the rounds in. But the thing I'm saying is, I just about got it out now. But the thing I'm saying is that even though you have 6 rounds here, at least you have that dump pouch where you can load your cylinders with that 22 Magnum. And you're going to do just fine. Granted that you do your part with the revolver, which is fire to get to cover and then extract yourself from that situation and reload when you're behind cover and far away from the threat. So if you shoot one person and it has an effect on them and 2 run away, you're good. You don't have to pursue. You don't have to run after them people. So in defense situation where a revolver was used compared to a semi-auto, there has been no more deaths. There has been no more deaths where a private citizen used a revolver than they used a semi-auto. You know why? Because it's how you use the weapon. It's how you use the weapon. And the other thing is you run out of time before you run out of shots. Another thing is the person doesn't know you have a revolver because things happen so quickly. They don't even know you have a revolver. All they know is they're being shot at. Are they counting your rounds? Well, if they don't know you have a revolver, they're probably not interested in counting rounds. Even if it was a revolver, who's going to sit there and count rounds? Okay? And I give the analogy of what happens in most defense situations with the revolver is kind of like skydiving. You got 10 people that are going skydiving, okay? And I'm going to tell you that, let's say 4 out of 10 parachutes aren't going to open up. Do you want to go skydiving? Okay? You want to take a chance? That's the kind of chance you're taking with the revolver. That's why big crowds leave people alone with the revolvers, because they don't want to get shot. They don't want to be a part of the odds. Because they're thinking, well, if he runs out of ammo, we can get him. Yeah, but what if you get hit? What if he chooses you? See? And the other thing we have to understand about this multiple attacker thing. Multiple attackers. Okay, I live close to North Minneapolis, and I lived in North Minneapolis probably half my life. And I'll tell you right now that I have never seen or heard of anybody that was in a crowd of most being multiple attackers. They're not. Now, are they potential attackers? Yes. But the only time a person can be labeled an attacker is when they're attacking. So if you got 50 attackers, okay, they might not all be attackers. A lot of them probably have logic and reason and understand that they might get shot, so they're not going to get involved. And just because they come towards you doesn't mean they're attacking. That's not an attacker, okay? An attacker is somebody that attacks. So if they don't attack, they're not multiple attackers. So downtown Minneapolis during the riots, there'd been a couple guys with a couple semi-autos, and I don't know how many rounds they had, but the crowds wouldn't mess with them, even though the guy was outnumbered with, say, a Taurus G2C with 12 rounds and an extra 12. Even though the crowd knew that he was outnumbered, they didn't mess with him. Even though they knew that the guy might have only had a 5-shot revolver, they're not going to mess with him. So the majority of the crowd isn't going to do anything to you, okay? So this whole zombie multiple attackers crap, you have to forget about that. It's mostly a bunch of nonsense. You're thinking about the worst case scenario. And once again, we are not talking about law enforcement, okay? We're talking about a private citizen that doesn't have to go to trouble, that extracts themselves from the situation, that finds cover, and that shoots from cover, and with a revolver, for example, would reload and do it in a manner where they know they've gotten to good cover and they're away from the threat, okay? And the other thing is you train with what you carry. If I carry this, I train a lot doing 1-2 pieces of cover, doing run and gun, where I go for the head and I go for the heart. With this thing, very little recoil, very powerful little 22 Magnum round, 15 inches of penetration. It will mess up your head if it hits you. You can actually do headshots, and we don't want to leave headshots out of the equation. Now, you got to be responsible for what's beyond your target. But something like this, I'm telling you, it's so accurate and so easy to shoot that you can go for headshots all day long with this one. Whereas the Taurus G2C, if you're trying to manage recoil and shoot fast with something like this, you might not be able to have that kind of accuracy or that kind of speed to go for headshots. So the thing is that especially the 22 Buckmark here is going to have a lot of speed and a lot of accuracy, what I call speed accuracy. Speed accuracy is a mag dump where the bullets all hit in the same spot. If you did it with something like this or the Burst of Thunder, your groups are going to be quite wider than they would with this 22 pulling the trigger on a nice, sweet single action sub 4-pound trigger. So that single action trigger is really going to be beneficial as far as the 22 caliber Buckmark here. And the other thing is, yes, there might be a disadvantage in drawing because it's got the longer barrel and stuff like that. And some people say that you're at a disadvantage because it's only got a 10-round magazine, but you guys have to understand it's not the magazine. It's not the magazine that's in the gun. It's not your onboard capacity. It's what you carry with you. So if you carry 30 rounds and have 10 here, that's 40 rounds of 22 long rifle, okay? And once again, when we get back to training and shooting properly, if you can't do something with 10 rounds in this before you have to switch out mags, if you can't get your distance and get to safety or fire a shot to get these guys away from you, then there's something wrong with you. It's not the gun. And a lot of times in defense situations, it's not the 22, it's not the Burst of Thunder, it's not the 9, it's not the revolver. Everybody's saying, oh, you only got 6 shots. It's not that. It's you. It's how you use the weapon. It's how you use the ammo that saves you from that situation. Because of the fact that in a defense situation, all the variables have to come together. Situational awareness, your training, okay, your shot placement, your fitness. There are so many things that have to come together to win a gunfight. I tell people it's like baking a cake. If you have one ingredient out of that cake, then it's not a cake. So let's say that you have a Glock 19 or a Glock 17 with, 17, 20 some rounds, and them big long mags, them extra mags that you get, the high capacity ones. If you're not situationally aware and some guy gets the drop on you, it's not going to matter how much ammo you have. So it's not just ammo. It's not just muzzle energy. It's not just expansion. It's not just penetration. All of these factors come together to win a gunfight. And once again, if we look at Claude Werner's research about handguns, he found that small calibers and revolvers have not lost more gunfights in a private citizen defense situation than bigger calibers and higher capacity magazines. Once again, why is that? Well, it's because it's the person. It's not the gun. It's the person behind the gun. So when people tell you what's best for a self-defense situation, you have to remember, what are they basing that on? They have to base it on facts, and we have the facts. We have the research. We have John Correa. We have Claude Werner and all that. And you law enforcement guys, you have to understand, don't mix your data in with the private citizen. That is not accurate data. Private citizen, military, gangs, law enforcement, and stuff like that, they're all separate from each other. The reason why gangs are separate from the private citizen is because gangs are just going to blow off a bunch of rounds and just going to shoot into the air and pray and spray, okay? So we don't want to associate the private citizen with them as far as how many shots are needed in a defense situation and stuff like that, because of the fact that you're not going to trouble. You're trying to get away from trouble. You're trying to get cover. You're trying to shoot back, whereas law enforcement now has to go into that big mess and get in a big shootout because they got to put the cuffs on. And military has orders to, to go hunt down guys like in a building or something, clearing buildings and stuff like that. And you know that they're all enemies, and it's quite different than the private citizen sector. So we have to understand that. But anyway, hope you watched the video. And once again, if you have a dump pouch like this, let's say you're carrying the 22 revolver, the weight of this will actually pull some of the weight from this, and you'll balance out your weight really nice. And one of the advantages of a small snub nose revolver, whether it's a 38 or a 22 Magnum, is the fact that you can draw much faster. You can have a better grip on it without accidentally having your palm over the slide. Because some guns, you might have your palm over the slide in an emergency and you might not have a perfect grip on it. Whereas something like this, even if you didn't have a perfect grip, you can still fire the gun. See? Whereas something like this, if you have a grip where your palm is up against the slide, you're not going to be able to fire it. So, and you've seen a lot of videos where law enforcement did that, where they were in a hurry and they tried to draw their gun and they were always touching the slide with the palm of their hand, not getting that proper grip. So you want a full grip, but a short barrel. So if you notice here, it's almost a full grip on this thing and a short barrel, which means the travel distance from here to out of the holster is very quick. Notice that I can hip shoot when I pull out of the holster. I can hip shoot right away. So that's the advantage of something like this, is you can get it out quick and you can get shots on target quick. Not as fast as the buckmark, but the buckmark, the disadvantage, like I was saying, is if you have a holster for this, you got to pull out that long barrel first. But once the cat's out of the bag, you're going to be able to hit anything with this you want at any distance. I mean, this thing, there is no contest between this 22 buckmark and all these other bigger calibers here. The 22 buckmark is one killing machine. Boy, I'll tell you, you can put shots in vital zones very, very quickly. Like I said, it's speed accuracy, which is accuracy that is very, very fast, like a mag dump or something like that, where you're just shooting into a target, multiple shots, and they're all hitting the same spot. No recoil to worry about because it isn't going to recoil. So that's the thing you have to understand. In the worst case scenario, have extra ammunition on you, even though it's been stated that you only need one magazine, for most defense situations according to private citizen research. But here's the thing. If the mag fails on you, okay, that's why we have an extra mag, just in case something fails, we've got a spare magazine. Not necessarily that we'll need more rounds, but we just have it in case something goes wrong. Same thing with these 22 magazines here. If you're in a bad situation, let's say you got held down in a building and you got 30 rounds of 22 LR and you got this pouch here, another 122 LR, what you could do is you could say, hey, we'll stay behind cover. You can load this one with 22s and you can load this one with 22s. Have somebody help you. And you can load these up, get back in the fight, or you can do it yourself, one or the other. But the whole thing I'm talking about here is single stack magazines a bad thing? No, not at all. They're not a disadvantage at all because of the reasons that I explained. So even though you got your fancy double stack, micro pistols out there, the thing about double stack micro pistols is in the future they're probably still going to want a lot of money for these magazines. Even this one here, they want a lot of money for this magazine, probably close to $40, okay? And the thing is that single stack magazines, especially for like this one here and the Browning Buckmark, are much cheaper, so you can buy more of them. And in the future, what's going to happen is you're going to see these disappear if the gun isn't that popular and they're not making it anymore. Whereas the tried and true 22 Buckmark has been around since about 1985, and they've always had the same magazines. Magazines are always going to be available. So the support of some pistols like this one, or even the Burrs of Thunder, you never know when the support is going to be cut off, and you're not going to be able to get parts, magazines, or if you do get them, they're going to cost you so much money that you're going to have to be a street hooker on the Vegas Strip or something like that to be able to afford, your double stack magazines. So that's the thing you guys have to understand. You have to think about the future potential of the pistol and the magazines, not just here and now. So the SIG 365, they're probably going to keep them prices real high for the magazines. And who's to say in the future that they're not going to be reliable, tried and true? Because this magazine hasn't been around for long, this double stack G2C. These have been around since 1985. Okay, nothing's changed. It's all the same. And these have been tried and true. They work. So, and you do need to replace your magazines if you shoot an awful lot. That's one of the myths too, is thinking I can just shoot 50,000 rounds and I don't have to replace my magazines. You do. So that's another myth right there. So that's been found out in a lot of shooting places. James Yeager passed away. It was really sad, but all the classes of the Glock 19 and all them other schools, they've said that one of the things is that they notice is that people still want to run the same magazines year after year. You got to buy new magazines if you shoot a lot. That's just the way it is. So, but anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Appreciate your time.